Welcome to another episode of Video Store Rejects. This is a podcast where we discuss directors' filmographies and our favorite film franchises. We have been doing Ridley Scott, but we're closing a series this week with a director we've been talking about for a while, Guillermo Del Toro. His newest Academy Award nominated film is out on streaming, Nightmare Alley. I am your host, Cody House. With me is my co-host, Chris Jacobs, our social media content manager.
How's it going, guys?
And our other co-host, fact checker and researcher extraordinaire, Lindsay Jacobs, somewhere back there.
Yep, she'll be in just a minute. She'll be a few minutes late.
And we've got a returning guest. This was his favorite film of last year. So when I needed a guest to talk about it, he graciously said, of course, I'll come on and talk about it. Justin Doyle, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, this is from my other appearances on your guys' show. This is a movie that I actually had seen first. Normally, I like to come in fresh with fresh eyes, but I love this movie so much. It was my favorite movie of 2021, and I rewatched it last night. So, yeah, I mean, it's still my favorite. It's still my favorite of last year. So I'm excited to talk about it. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. And before we get into it, you have not made an appearance on any of our Guillermo del Toro episodes. So what are your opinions of him as a director? Do you like him, or are you just like, whatever, I'll watch a movie if it's interesting or not?
Well, most of his beginning stuff I haven't seen. Like the ones that get a lot of praise I haven't seen. His first one I'm missing. I know it starts with an H.
Kronos.
Oh, Kronos. Yes. That one I haven't seen. Pan's Labyrinth. But I'm probably one of the few that actually enjoyed Crimson Peak. And I am in partial minority of people who didn't really care for Shape of Water. But his movies are good. I do like this movie in particular because it's not a creature feature. With Guillermo Del Toro, he loves his creatures. And there are some in here, but it's sort of like real life sort of creatures. But yeah, I really enjoyed that because he's so into that, and I think that's why I enjoyed kind of Crimson Peak, a little bit too. But yeah, no, he's fine. But it's not one that I go and search out. But he's really, really good at what he does. I think he knows how to, his casting team, he knows how to cast. He's really good at casting. And he knows what he's doing once he is with them and how to direct actors and the creatures too. So I think he's really, really smart, a brilliant director. Just he's very much like Wes Anderson, where he's into production design, and costuming and stuff like that. So he's really intricate. He likes to pay attention to every single part of his film, however it may go down. So. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's interesting you bring up that this isn't a creature feature. It isn't a movie that involves the supernatural, because most of his movies do have some sort of fairy tale fantasy element, but this still does very much feel like a Del Toro movie to me, because the production design of this movie feels like a character itself. Like Cate Blanchett's office feels like a character, like the carnival, like just throwing that will into the lightning thing. And even Bradley Cooper's character, and they're like, what's that do? And he's like, I don't know, it's just some bullshit. Like that feels like a Del Toro thing. Like, I'm gonna put this spinning wheel in here.
Yeah, super smart. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It is still a Del Toro movie. He still, like I said, he loves production design, and it really shows. Yeah, I kind of picked up on something a little bit last night watching it for a second time. There was a comment about circulars and circles at the beginning of the movie, and that's a lot of what the circus is. Lots of circles and circular objects and stuff. And then you move on from the circus an hour after the movie starts, and we kind of get into more like squared items, like
Mhm.
Kate Blanchett. There is some circles in her office, but there's mostly squared items, and squared patterns on the walls and stuff. So I thought that was interesting. So um, maybe it was just something I thought of while I was watching the movie. Doesn't mean that it's real or that's what he was going for. But I kind of saw that connection there and thought that was interesting. He's really really intricate with his stuff.
Well, you mentioned another thing, and it's something I love about films, especially when they do this, is like it starts out as one sort of story, but then shifts as we move along. Like, I think this movie has a perfect beginning and a perfect ending, which kind of helps it go along. But I love how it starts out as like, okay, he's on the run. Obviously, he did something bad. We don't know what he did, or he's trying to get away from his life. And it becomes like him just trying to start a new life. And then you think, okay, he's going to get into the carnival, be a carny. And then it becomes like a whole psychological thriller when he like moves into being like a grifter and a
Well,
con artist.
you mentioned circles. It all does kind of come back around.
It
It is
does.
it all is kind of a big uh, loop. Which I won't just get into right away, but
Yeah, I was
you know what I'm
telling
talking about. Just so.
when I was talking with Cody about this movie before, uh, he had talked about people not understanding it or whatever. And the thing is you have to pay attention literally to everything in this movie because it matters from the first words all the way to the last words. And if you don't pay attention, then you're not gonna get it. And it's one of those that you just really have to pay attention to. We were talking about the movie Batman earlier. That one you don't necessarily have to pay attention to, the 1966 version all the way through, because your beginning and end doesn't matter. It's all the same. This one you really really have to pay attention, and I think every word mattered, every movement mattered, and I just really really enjoyed the whole thing. So
I mean, it does what classic movies have been doing since the dawn of time. It sets everything up where you know where it's going to go if you're just watching the movie. Like, little lines are hinted, like the conversation between him and Willem Dafoe after they drop off the geek at the or the doctor's office and they're eating. And Willem Dafoe tells him how they rope a guy into becoming the geek. Like, he's
Hmm.
setting you up, and like
Yeah.
Cooper's not wanting to drink, like he doesn't want to drink any alcohol, and then when he finally starts, like the downhill is coming, like, and his impending doom is hinted at even early on in the movie when he's learning the tricks of the trade from David Stratham, where David's like, you can't ever get to where you actually believe you have this power, or like, and your sins are going to catch up with you, so you have to be careful what you do and don't do. And like
Right.
Tony Collette, when they come and visit, and she's like, don't do the spook show, don't do it, like the cards, and and the tarot cards tell him
Mm-hmm.
what is going to happen to him.
yeah, but it's all about perspective. You just turn that card upside down.
Mm-hmm.
um, Yeah, I want to talk a lot about Strathairn actually, because why is he not nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and why is J.K. Simmons nominated for Best Supporting Actor?
I don't know, because nothing against J.K. Simmons. I love him as an
Nothing.
actor, but
Same. And
I
he
do
was
not
great in being the Ricardos.
understand why the actors love being the Ricardos so much, or the performances, because they're kind of just bland performances, in my opinion. Like,
That's you know that was kind of meh.
yeah, it's a meh movie.
Totally.
Like
I'm a
I
huge, huge Nicole Kidman fan. Huge. There's nothing she can do wrong. And she did a really good job, but she's no Lucille Ball. It's Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
She nailed the voice, but we still saw Nicole Kidman in there, and that's an issue. Whereas like Strathairn in this movie, to me, one of the better performances, and he should be nominated, over JK, no doubt.
I would agree, and I think what's interesting, and I just read this, was that Stratham wasn't originally cast in the role. It was originally going to be Michael Shannon, which, as a married couple, works because Shannon and Toni Collette are closer in age. But I think the parallels going on in this movie, especially with Bradley Cooper's character, that Stratham is an older man, works because, Cooper obviously, you know, I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to point it out, but we go deep into these movies. This movie is available to watch. So yeah, there is
On
spoilers.
Hulu. It's on Hulu. So
And
you can
HBO
seriously
Max.
go watch it. Yeah.
So watch it first, then, if you don't want to be spoiled. But, we don't know at the beginning what happens, but Bradley Cooper murders his father and makes it look like a house fire. Or basically, we find out he just lets him die. But
He
still,
just lets him freeze to death.
That seems like a very intentional killing, though.
But it's intentional.
Well, it was because he put the blanket that he took off his dad onto himself to make sure he stayed warm while his dad, died. That first scene is really awesome because we don't know, is Bradley a bad guy? What happened here? Is he trying to? We don't know who the person is because all we do is see him drag a body into a hole and then he's walking away from a house fire. And then he gets on the train into a seamless transition into the circus area. But yeah, we find out later it's his dad. And that is really important for the Stratharian character because that's who Bradley learns from. That's where he learns the trick, the mind trick. And Stratharian warns him. He totally warns him because you can tell that Stratharian went down that path too. Obviously, he's a drunk, so he has his own issues. He can't even, do his part at the circus, which is, help with the trickery, because he's drunk. But I just loved his character. I loved all of his dialogue that he had. He had a great monologue too. The trick with the cigarette, so simple, so fun. I mean, it's just all he wants is the booze. But he also, is wanting to pass down his knowledge for good, not for bad,
Yeah, because they tell him, don't feed into, even though we are grifting these people, don't feed into their grief and, make it worse. Kind of avoid it. If it gets too far, walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. It was all just sort of interesting. Bradley Cooper is looking for a place now, after this house fire. He's looking for a place where he can just be and be a part of something. And he finds the circus and he has to work and he starts learning all of the tricks from the trade. And I don't know why they allowed him in so easily. He kind of just became a main player for the circus so quick. It's probably because I guess his ideas maybe to add to.
Well, I mean, first Willem Dafoe. Well, I guess Ron Perlman, who's always, what's the word I'm looking for? He's always suspicious of Bradley Cooper. He doesn't trust him, right? He knows, he knows because they're all grifters. They know a shady person when they see one because they're kind of shady. But he's like, well, if you want to help us tear down, we could use an extra hand. And I don't know if Willem Dafoe just sees his physicality and thinks, oh, I could use you for some work if you need some work.
Well, he did stop him for that radio, which actually does also come full circle.
That it does.
But it didn't play during the movie, which was interesting. It didn't have a play in the movie until the end. I think
just thought that was signified that maybe the circus that he had worked for folded, and it reminded him of that. Maybe it hit home right before we find out what does happen. It was a part of that full circle moment, where it just hits. He sees the jar and the radio that he had and now he has nothing. You know, he went from having a radio to having something, and then back to not even having a radio, being ready to bite chickens' heads off. You know, so
that was intense when the geek dives into that chicken. Whew, it got me the first time and it got me the second time. It was rough to watch.
Yeah.
So apparently Bradley Cooper took boxing lessons to kind of emphasize that he has a violent past, because Del Toro wanted it to look like you could tell this guy's got history, like he's used his hands before, and like how he punches the geek like is really strong, and like they're like, don't kill him, like it's like, wow, like there's some force behind that punch.
I enjoyed being in that funhouse so much. I know it was so quick, but yeah, him entering the devil's mouth, it almost was like him entering, his new sort of life and lifestyle there. And I really wish that we spent more time in that funhouse because it was fun. It was creepy, eerie, very Guillermo Del Toro.
Oh yeah, that scene's total, and that's probably what attracted him to this material. Apparently, Ron Perlman gave him a copy of the book while they were making Kronos. Because I don't know if you guys know this, there's another movie of this that was made in the 40s with Tyrone Power.
1947, yeah.
But Del Toro said, yeah, I do too. It's on the Criterion channel, if anyone streams that. But Del Toro states this is an adaptation of the novel because he read the book before he saw even the original movie. So he doesn't even say this is a remake.
Yeah, and I think the beginning and the end are the same in Nightmare Alley. I haven't seen it, but I heard that the stuff in between is very, very different. And
okay,
and obviously, if you see the 1947 version, then there's no reveal in the 2021 version. So I'm really glad that I saw this version first, because if I knew the ending, I think that would have really ruined it for me.
Yeah, I think I would have been less enamored with this film too had I seen the original. If I knew where it all was going, I probably would have still appreciated the craft and the design, but like just seeing it go full circle, I think, is what helps the power of this movie for me.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
And so I think the other things that kind of helpful, obviously how he gets to start helping Toni Collette and David Stratham, is Toni Collette just likes him even though she knows he's trouble. Like she's just attracted to him.
That's what she says. She's like, "Ooh, you're trouble, and I love trouble." And then hand in the tub. Yeah, because she works at she also works at a bathhouse, which is so weird to think about. Imagine, my little apartment here, I have a shower and a tub. I'm allowed to go whenever I want, but they had to pay 10 cents to go over and bathe. So I'm sure they only did it once a week or so, maybe not even that.
Do you know what that inflates to for the modern dollar?
What is it?
$1.98.
So almost $2 to take a bath. That's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
That's probably what they charge those truckers at those big truck stops, gas stations.
Oh yeah, or more. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, I think their interaction, the first interaction, Toni Collette and Bradley Cooper, does set up both of their characters. He's kind of timid. He just wants his bath. She goes in a little bit aggressive, and then it kind of opens him up a little bit more. He's not really the mysterious man, anymore. He's part of the team. So, but I never like cheating. I don't like the cheating stuff.
Yeah. Well, she also teaches him like how to change his accent based on like who your audience is.
Yeah, play to the audience for sure.
If you're in the South,
she's great.
Yeah.
I love Toni Collette in this movie. She's really, really good. What about Rooney Mara? How'd you guys feel about her performance?
I like her in this performance. She may be the only decent person in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
which
Yeah.
he fully takes advantage of her and her feelings for him, for
Hmm.
his act and where he wants to go. You know, because she's pretty innocent, and I guess that's why Ron Perlman is like super protective of her, because like maybe he sees that and doesn't want her to end up like how everybody else is in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I'm glad she
Yeah.
made it back to the circus though. Like that was good to see.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
was straight up. Are we getting into spoilers? I guess can I say?
No, we've already spoiled things.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I straight up expected her to get shot, and that was going
Or
to be the down
murdered.
or murdered by the guy's bodyguard. When he
I
when she
Richard
was
mean,
Jenkins.
charging out, I was like, okay, she's going to get shot, and he's going to have to like he did that. It was his fault. That's going to be the twist. But no, she, you know, it was
I
good to see
mean,
her. Like,
that's where it's heading, and apparently, you know, gets way over his head and mixing up with Richard Jenkins' character. But you know, Richard
mm,
Jenkins even reveals that he's probably murdered some other young women.
right.
Yep. Yeah, that whole Richard Jenkins stuff, that it was tense. It was really tense. And for a movie that hadn't built up any of that tension and then finally had it, it was really, really interesting. It was a nice change of pace for this film. Because he Richard Jenkins wants Bradley Cooper to have his person who he lost in his life reappear, like be reimagined, and so he can see her. And so he gives him a polygraph test to see if he's
Mhm.
lying or not. And Bradley Cooper and his character, instead of actually answering the questions, he does his shtick. All he ever does since once he learns how to do it is do it. That's all he does. Everything is a shtick. Every person he's trying to pull wool over their eyes. He's trying to, be in control of the situation for everybody at all times, and it is so good. It
That was
is
a
so
tense
good.
moment. That was a tense
Yeah,
moment because
yeah,
he's sitting there and he's watching the guy and he gets a mark and he's like, "Oh no, I've got to, I got to do something." And that's when he goes quiet. He goes, "Okay, I like you said, I am fixing. This is going to be the ultimate weasel. Like I'm getting out of this because my impression was that they shot these people after they were wrong, like they killed them or something. Like
Yeah, because this is a mentally unstable but very powerful person, right?
right,
He's the type of person that he obviously, even if he's not involved in politics or something, obviously he's got his pockets and connected to something that people turn a blind eye to whatever he's doing. And I gotta say, incredible performance. I know Richard Jenkins is a great actor and he can play any role, but I don't think I have ever seen him play this type of character. He's usually playing like sort of nice or passive people, but he is intimidating. And like when he says like that he's gonna do something, I'm like, oh man, this guy's gonna straight up murder you if you like are full of shit.
yeah. Um, Yeah, he is unstable, and like he said, he has more money than he can ever imagine to deal with. So, he's throwing, $10,000 at him per session, just ridiculous, and I think that probably plays into his sort of psyche, is like having all that money. I'm sure really just kind of makes you go loony, but also you don't have anybody to share it with as well, because he's lonely. That's why he just wants to see her again. Is he's never been able to have closure, and that can make you desperate, you know.
And here comes
And
Bradley Cooper trying to take advantage of people. And I think part of it is it makes him feel like he's better than these other people because he thinks he can dupe them because he thinks, oh, well, these are weak-minded people, when he's just trying to feel better about himself because he doesn't like himself.
Yeah.
But let's give it up for Kate Blanchett though. Like her
Oh my
character
God. What a
was the
performance.
ultimate. Yeah, like man, when she said pull the old switcheroo, I was like, oh man,
Well,
that's
here's
great.
what I
I
think.
kind of saw it coming, but I was like, she's gonna
Mhm.
play him, you know.
She is doing the femme fatale very well. But I think what happens is because she sees right through him, obviously, when she goes to see his show, right? But then he's able to like turn the tables on her at the moment.
Mm,
So she's like, I don't think so, buddy. I know what you're full of crap and you're not as good as you think you are.
mm,
I'm gonna get you. And she does.
Yeah, she's a psychologist or psychiatrist, and in her office, she records all the sessions. So that actually comes into play for Bradley Cooper because she's had sessions with some of these people
Mm-hmm.
that he cons, and so they kind of team up together and kind of con. She's obviously against it, with the patient confidentiality stuff, but yeah, Bradley Cooper swindles his way through there. The scene where she starts to get him to talk and open up
mhm.
was probably my favorite part of the movie because he's so against it, but it starts to work,
She's
and
playing the same game.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And she is so smart. I love when she's like, "You say you never drink, not that you won't, or you'll take us, you'll just take the cup and not drink it, but you make it a point to say you never drink." And that plays so well throughout the movie because then he does finally drink. Celebration, and that's where the downfall really begins.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Well,
they go into why he didn't drink before, though?
I don't think they really go into it, but I think
No. Yeah.
part of it is he just knows like that opens you up to like weakness and like you're not at your wits when you're drinking. And maybe he was a little bit paranoid after Willem Dafoe tells him like, some of this is poison, some of this is for
Yeah. I mean, that also comes into play because, he gets a bottle because the Strathairn needs something. And, I mean, we don't even know. Was it the right bottle or the wrong bottle?
That's okay.
Even
Do you
if it
guys
was the
think he
right bottle.
purposely did it so he would die to get his book, or do you think it was an accident?
I think I kind of think it that he did it on purpose.
Yeah, I don't think Bradley Cooper's killing.
That's why they made it a
accident.
point to mention that I felt was
Well, and I feel like that with this whole thing with older men that could be his father, like all three of these men are old enough to be his father, and he ends up killing them all in some sort of way. Each one,
mm,
like, so, and they're all different. So the first murder is very intense, but it's not brutal because even though he resents his father, he still kind of is like, well, I'm not going to like just straight up murder you, but I'm going to let you die slowly. So that's bad, but a little bit because I guess there's still sort of love, even though probably the hate outweighs the love. But then, like, yeah, he gives David Stratham the alcohol, but still kills him, but probably because he thinks the most out of him and respects him. But he's like, but I need your book. I want to do this, and you won't tell me, you won't give me everything. So I guess he gives him like even though he kills him, it's kind of like well, you'll just die in your sleep sort of thing. And
so
then
do you think he laced it with the opium?
Well, the bottles are right next to each other.
they're already
So
there. It's already
he
Yeah.
just, which is why would you pack them right next to each other. It's so stupid.
All right.
You're just asking for somebody to
accidentally
slip
get the wrong bottle. Yeah. But then, when we get to Richard Jenkins, it's a brutal death. I mean, partly because he's defending himself in Rooney Mara because Richard Jenkins is going to kill them. But, like, he doesn't stop after he's dead. He, like, beats him till he's, like, nearly non-flesh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting point there. Yeah, I don't know. Because it's not like... I wonder if he does it for people that he thinks that are maybe better than him, or like they look down on him too much. Maybe I wonder what that is, because it definitely stems from whatever relationship happened between his dad and him. Which I don't know. Was the mom involved? There's so much.
Well,
backstory.
The mom did abandon him. Remember, she left his dad for another man, so she just ran off. So he feels abandoned by both his mother and his father.
Well, yeah, so he probably blames his dad for that, and it ruined the rest of his life. But he's a grown ass man by the time that this happened. So I don't know, like, he really should have just moved on with his life, but no, he decided to keep acting, pretty much like a child.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper,
Mary?
you could have just moved, guy. You didn't have to let that all fester and.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still your childhood house, and you're like, okay, I guess it's time to move on after everyone's dead. How about the Mary Steenburgen stuff? The two scenes that she's in.
She's so good just for what little screen time she has. And I feel so sorry for her and her husband because he takes so much advantage of them, and and obviously they are still grieving for their son's death. That's been, I guess, 20 years, because he went to World War I, right? Because this is on the eve of World War II.
This is that. I think that was part of the down. That was the event that was going to expose him, to the public. I don't think he would have been really exposed for murdering the rich guy. I think he probably would have been more of a hush situation. But man, you're right. She was just unstable enough to think that they were, going to take the quick way to go see their son, and that was, it happened at the right time. I don't know.
Yeah, Guillermo really took a chance by making it so graphic without the graphics, because it was. I mean, even knowing what was about to happen, I'm still like, oh, geez, because she takes that gun and points it right at her eye and just bang, and it was really, really interesting.
I guess,
and it shows what grief can do. I mean, all of these people are grieving in some sort of way.
The dangers,
every single one of them.
The dangers of mediums playing people like that.
Well, the interesting thing about that is apparently this sort of happened to Guillermo in real life. We've brought it up before. Del Toro talked about his father was kidnapped back in the 90s. And he talks about the making of Mimic was more stressful than dealing with his father's kidnapping. But apparently there were people claiming they were psychics and that they knew where his dad was and stuff. So there were people that were trying to prey upon him and his family.
That's something else.
So I guess that's another thing that kind of brought him to this subject matter, not just the book, but that life experience too. Because come on, we've seen it. What was that lady's name that used to have the infomercials that they found out Cleo. She got arrested, or Miss Cleo?
Miss Cleo, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to see her in the in between the USA Up All Night commercials.
I love when Dave Chappelle did the skits about her,
Yeah.
just making fun of her. Yeah, that was really
But
funny.
but speaking of Mary Steenburgen, I know a lot of people and a couple of our guests talked about how they thought it was cool. It was a Carol reunion with Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, which I haven't seen Carol. I know a lot of people love that movie. It's also a Step Brothers reunion, guys, because Richard Jenkins and Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah. Yeah. Both are incredible actors. Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara are both really, really good. Yeah, Kate. The people that I've noticed with the directors really know how to light her, and it's always right here. Like this is perfect light, always on her eyes, like this part of her face. In her office, you can tell that they use that a lot. But I always Scorsese would do it with her. Yeah, she for some reason they really just highlight her eyes up here.
It's funny you mention him because I think he's a big part of why this movie probably ended up getting Best Picture nomination because he like wrote an open forum in the LA Times or something talking about how good this movie was and that it was like a master class in noir and that like it's been the best noir homage he's seen in some time.
Yeah, it's rocking. I mean, noir films are fantastic if they're done right, and yeah, I'm glad. See, that's what I like is people sticking their neck out for what they truly believe in, and like the Last Duel, I think should have had a lot of more praise than it's gotten, and I definitely think Nightmare Alley is one of them as well. And I'm glad that there's other directors and creatives who are recognizing it as like a real nice piece of art and a good piece of work.
A shout out to I know it's really minor, but a shout out to the transitions between scenes too, because he did the
Mhm.
classic fade out, and you know, um, from for you geeks or nerds, you'll see it in Star Wars. Lucas used the same thing, but they used to use that in older films, and I thought that was a nice touch. On top of being a beautiful movie, like the Art Deco, I absolutely loved. Uh,
Yeah, and they shot a lot of this actually in Buffalo, New York, where a lot of the third second act of this movie takes place.
that's cool.
And Del Toro's
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say Del Toro wanted to like emphasize its unique architecture because it's something we're not used to seeing on film because Buffalo's not exactly like people have heard of it. They're like, oh, that's where buffalo wings comes from, but like that's about people who don't live or been in New York very much know because like my stepdaughter goes to a school in Saratoga Springs, and when we say New York, everyone always automatically thinks New York City, but
Mhm.
there's so much more to the state of New York other than New York City, but that's what everyone thinks of when you say New York.
Right.
Yeah. I guess part of this movie was filmed or suspended because of COVID.
Yeah, they actually
Um,
shot the second act, the second half of the movie first.
yes. Yeah. And so during that time, I guess Bradley was able to lose 15 pounds to make him appear younger in the beginning of the
Mhm.
film. Yeah. Um, that's pretty interesting. I mean, so many movies got either swept under the rug or well, we know a lot of movies are being pushed back because of the pandemic, but I'm glad that they finished this up and was able to get it out for this time because
Mhm.
this movie is all the 10 that are nominated for best picture, they're different, but this one's the most to like an original OG Hollywood film that would have been nominated back in the day, you know and I think staying true to art like that is really, really impressive. And I'm glad Guillermo did it. I think he should, also be up for best director for this.
He should have been. Yeah, I think he should have been up for best director because it's really wonderfully done. I think it is definitely deserving of its production design and cinematography nominations. Those are actually probably my two favorite categories at the Oscars this year.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, he
Yeah.
made a very old-fashioned Hollywood movie, and I'm glad that it's getting some sort of recognition. I think that the fact that it's streaming helped. And I love that Del Toro, even though he pleaded for people to go see this in the theater, he wasn't being one of those directors that was like, well, if you don't see my movie on the big screen, then you don't care. You don't love cinema. He's like, I understand there's a pandemic. If you're not comfortable going to the movie theater, I perfectly understand. But if you can, please go see my movie. So now that it's on streaming and you don't have to even pay to rent it if you have a subscription service to one of the two services it's on, go watch it. It's really well done. And I'm just glad that he doesn't have that ego that a lot of directors seem to have, or it doesn't appear he has that ego. And I guess Bradley Cooper doesn't either because it seems like they got along really well and collaborated. Like a lot of actors who've become directors, I hear, are really difficult to work with on set, and they try to like take over on the set and have arguments. Like apparently Kevin Costner didn't get along with Clint Eastwood when they were making A Perfect World, and like had a temper tantrum about a shot, and Clint just shot the scene without him with his body double because they're like, we don't need his face for this shot, right? Let's just go ahead and shoot it.
Wow.
Yeah, it does. You really, what I've noticed working on sets here is when you are a director actor, like you really have to take off the hat that you're not wearing. So if you're normally a director and you're acting in this scene, you're not directing the movie. So don't act like it. You can give ideas, but why would you argue to the point of, oh, well, you're just not going to be in this scene then? It's so ridiculous.
And apparently this is one of the most COVID safe sets when they came back. Like they made Richard Jenkins quarantine for 2 weeks in a motel room
Before he started to film. That's cool. I like that stuff. I mean, honestly, it's the only way we're going to continue to keep doing this stuff, is if you follow these weird made up rules. But we were just talking about, Guillermo Del Toro really knows how to pick his cast, but because he knows how to really talk to actors and really get them into the characters that he's looking for. I think he's a perfect actor's director. Like a Spielberg, I would say is like that too. So.
And tops off because I guess they were one of the first movies to stop production. Like they stopped before everybody else did, and Del Toro said to his knowledge, no one on cast or crew got COVID-19 while they were on hiatus. So
Nice.
good for him to like recognize that like we need to stop before someone gets sick.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess Jennifer Lawrence and Lady Gaga were considered for the role of Molly Cahill.
Either one of them could have done it, but I like Rooney Mara's performance. I think maybe Gaga or Lawrence's star power might have like overshadowed the character. Like I think Rooney Mara.
Go ahead.
I think Rooney Mara was good casting because even though she's a recognizable actress and we know her, we're not like, we can buy her more into the character because we're not thinking of Rooney Mara as the movie star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is another interesting thing. I've heard some people say they think Bradley Cooper is miscast, but I actually like this casting more than who it was originally going to be.
Leo, yeah.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
Because I'm sure Leo could play a despicable, shady person. He's a good actor, but even when he's playing like kind of a bad person, it's like an anti-hero. Like he's a tortured soul. Like he feels bad about the things that have happened to him or the things he's caused, right? Like he's always trying to find redemption.
Mm.
And he might have played that more with that angle, whereas Bradley Cooper's like, nope, I'm fully like we can buy Bradley Cooper as a scuzzbug a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, he did really good in this.
It was so good. After watching it, I mean, there's no way Leo could have pulled off that last line.
Do you know they did that in one take? One take. They said Cooper nailed that last line.
Oh my God, it's so good. There's no way Leo could have nailed it like that. It was just so good. I like Leo. He's a great actor. I think Bradley just like we're saying, he has a little bit more of a sleazeball sort of feel to him, and really can pull this off. And he's damn near in every single frame of this movie. I mean, he's everywhere. And to pull that off and have the movie still be as good as it is means that actor was phenomenal in it. And Bradley's. He should have also been. It's a tough year. I mean, Denzel was really good in Tragedy of Macbeth, but
you could have thrown Javier Bardem out of there. And you know what?
Oh, dude,
I'm gonna shots fire here. You could have thrown Kenneth Branagh out of Best Director.
No, I agree. I'm into that. Yeah, get him out. It was a fine film, but it's not Nightmare Alley. No way. So. Also, black and white. But yeah, I say get rid of Javier, throw in Bradley, and get rid of Kenneth and throw in Guillermo.
I can't believe he didn't get in for Best Supporting Actor. He's the best part of Licorice Pizza. That whole scene is my favorite part of the movie. I mean, 100%. I also like the Tom Waits stuff too. I thought Tom Waits was really good.
Mm-hmm. I'm a part of the Screen Actors Guild, and they're on Sunday. So today was the last day to vote, and I voted, and for sure Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, no doubt.
Yeah. It was such a good movie.
It was tough.
I love that movie.
It was tough for ensemble, though.
Loved it, but it was great. It was a good movie for what it was. So.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it, but and Bradley for sure really killed it. Yeah.
It just
to me, I love Sean Penn in it too.
It honestly felt like another American Graffiti in a way. It just, to me, it had a very American Graffiti vibe to it, and I'm a fan of American Graffiti, so I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it's the greatest film, but from what I've seen here lately, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's a good movie. Not his best, but I don't think it's his worst either. But even in that last scene of the movie, to get an actor like Tim Blake Nelson to just come in and do like 5 minutes of screen time or less, like, is so good. And like you were saying, Justin, the symmetry and like the setup, like there's the radio, there's the fetus of the three-eyed baby, like all these things we've emphasized earlier in the movie, they're all there.
Yeah. And what we keep doing with this movie is saying more known names. You know, every time we talk about another scene is a new name, new actor that we all know. This movie is just stacked. I think we've named them all by now, but yeah, Tim Blake. Oh, Clifton Collins Jr. also.
And Holt,
was a big name.
I can't think of his last name. Who's the bodyguard?
Holt McCallany.
Yeah. You've seen him. He's in Fight Club. He's on Mindhunter, the TV show Mindhunter. He's a very good actor too.
And he plays that character that he played in Nightmare Alley really well. Like that's his, that's his go-to. He does that really, really well. Yeah. I mean, should we just say what happens at the end?
I mean, I think
don't want to spoil.
I think we've already
we said it comes full circle. So I hope people understand that. But yeah, that last line where he's like, "Mister, I was born for it," is so good. I mean, it just
Yeah.
really encapsulates everything and puts it all in a nice package for us for the end, because it is so true. And but those words are also true for him as an actor. Like, he was born to act. He's a really, really phenomenal actor. And that last line was seriously perfect. It was so good that I immediately turned on A Star Is Born, because I just wanted to see more Bradley Cooper.
He's
So
so good
good.
in that too. Like, I've never seen any of the other versions of that movie. And so I was like, why is everyone saying this is so good? It's like a fourth version of a movie. And then I'm like, wow, he directed the crap out of this. Like, he made it so cinematic. Like, I'm so glad I was a little upset when I finally got to watch it that it was only playing in IMAX, but actually I was glad I saw it in IMAX cuz it was like, wow.
Kind of jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was I going? I had a thought with the
Was it the Mister I Was Born for This? Because that's what we
oh,
were talking about.
so yeah, I think that's a perfect ending. But I remember when I saw it in the theaters, which was last month. I think there was like maybe 8 to 10 people. I don't know, maybe less. It was more than 5, but somewhere between 5 or 10 people in the theater. And I just heard this one lady at the end went, "Ugh!" Like, she was like so mad that was the movie. And then, like, my wife and a friend of ours went with us to see it, and they're like, they don't know what to think about it. So they look at me and they're like, "What did you think?" I was like, "Well, I thought it was great." I was like, "It's a perfect noir." I was like, "This is a movie made for me." So yeah, I loved it. And I was like, it's structured just like any noir. Like, your protagonist is not a good person. They keep doing bad things. Bad things are going to happen to them at the end of the movie. I was like, that's how old Hollywood movies were because of the
You,
production code.
you know what it felt like to me, and you could have slapped Rod Sterling onto to the beginning and the end of that, and
It
it
could
would
have
have
been a
felt like
Twilight Zone
a
episode.
Twilight
Yeah.
Zone. Yeah, it would have been a great Twilight Zone.
And I think another reason why Bradley Cooper is great casting is because we can buy him as like a sleazy person, but he has to have those looks and charms. Like, you couldn't cast Michael Shannon in the lead because people would be like, "Oh, get away from me. You're so sleazy." Like, he's too sleazy. But
Yeah,
like, you couldn't cast like Chris Evans because people were like, "No, you wouldn't do that to us, Captain America."
well, he has to be just charming enough to
Yeah,
sleaze his way along and make it to the top.
and that's why I think because he's got that ability and talent. Justin,
Yeah, very
any
believable.
is there anything else we need to talk about before we rate this?
Okay, I wrote a lot of notes. Hold on, let me just obviously. Um, the sound design is really, really interesting in this movie. I normally don't notice stuff like that, but there's an inaudible scream from the geek. And for
Mm-hmm.
some reason, Guillermo decided to not like have that be, heard. And I just thought that was really, really interesting because, you hear a lot of noises and stuff happen at the circus, but for some reason he left that part out, and I just thought that was really interesting. But I don't know why he did it, because it doesn't happen in the movie, much beyond that. I like that Bradley Cooper, even though the geek is kind of like somebody that's just, people kind of crap on, he still really cared for him. Like he felt for him, like he knew where that guy had been. Um, he starts believing his own lies, which is interesting. Once you lie enough, you start to believe it yourselves. I like that he even got the cops at the circus. I thought that was a really cool scene, with the necklace. And I mean,
E-
how was he
even
able to pull that?
even a recognizable actor there. Yeah, he just reads the warrant and notices his shoes and then the necklace and is able to.
Mm-hmm.
Know that there's some sort of trauma in his life. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just so nuts. Let's see. The show and presentation is more important than anything to Bradley
Mm-hmm.
once he gets beyond that circus. Like, it's all about show, it's all about presentation. Even with the scene in that hall where he meets Kate Blanchett, he's talking to that older gentleman, and instead of continuing on, he just faints. Like, oh, so powerful, I just fell down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even when he's kind of caught in a lie, he still performs and tries to wiggle his way out of there.
Well, he learned that from Tony Collette and David Strathairn. They say, "Oh, the power just took over you for dramatic effect." Yeah.
Why did Kate Blanchett have the recording button underneath the table?
I guess so no one would know, like, they're being recorded.
But no, I think they'd all know.
That's the way I took it. Like, she did go over and press record the first time, like at the device, and then after that, it was under the table. So maybe he didn't know he was being recorded all the time. So it's like, I've got you on tape saying this and that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I guess
that's the
she
way
was doing it to
like, for blackmail.
Yeah, I just thought that was really weird. I love the questions. She's so good during the doctor session. She knew to ask the same as he would, and she flipped it on him. So it's such good dialogue there. His biggest sessions always seem to happen in the snow. What do you think about that? That was really interesting.
Well, do we think this takes place around Christmas time? Because, like, I saw some trees, like, that they put out in Richard Jenkins's garden, and you see some other settings that make it look like it's around Christmas time.
Yeah, I guess that could be it. I just thought it was, maybe it was because of where they were, because we didn't see any snow, and then all of a sudden it was like in the whole back half of the movie. Let's see. Swindled after he's being swindled. He ate with his fingers after drinking, even though he was in a swanky place. I thought that was interesting. Because he did it at the beginning of the movie. He's eating with his hands because he's so hungry, with the eggs and the sausage before Defoe lets him in. But he's still doing it in that swanky place. I thought that was interesting.
It's kind of like when you've been in prison mentality, where they talk about how ex-prisoners always kind of hover over their food for protection.
Yeah.
Like you can't get away from that.
Also, I know that you have a time limit. You can't just sit there and eat, at your leisure. You only have 5 to 10 minutes to eat or whatever. So I'm sure that has something to do with it, just shoveling food in. The end, he starts on a train and ends on a train. And the train that he gets trapped in, the one that he's running away in, do you guys remember what it was?
Doesn't have
on the train?
Chickens.
It was, yes, it was. It was full of chickens.
Isn't he on a bus at the beginning, though?
Is it a bus?
I thought it was
I
a
guess
bus.
it is a bus. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then we see what he did to his dad. But what did his dad do to him? I thought was interesting. And then I guess, is booze the thing that kills us all? Is booze the big killer?
It's a big anti-drinking movie.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the people who have the biggest issues in the movie are the ones who drink. So, I don't know. Fantastic, though. Really, really good movie. I'm ready to rate.
Okay, side note, if you guys want to see another phenomenal film where Ron Perlman plays a strongman in the circus, watch Jean-Pierre Jeuneau's City of Lost Children. Yeah. But it's a completely different character other than they're both strongmen. But
that's funny.
Just a little did you know. Okay, so for the Guillermo del Toro, I'm going to try and remember our ratings since it's been a little while since we did one. If you love this movie, you think it's great, it's a masterpiece, it's fantastical because most of Del Toro's films are fantastical in the world he creates. If you think it's just for fans or obscure cinephiles only deep dive, if you enjoyed it, find it entertaining, think it hits the mark, it's a delightful creature feature. If you didn't think it hit the mark, it's a little mediocre, wasn't quite up to snuff, then it's love for monsters over story. And then since he's such a Lovecraft fan and there's usually some sort of Lovecraftian influence, not so much on this one, other than I guess the character's own impending doom. We call it Cthulhu Rexall if you think it was like a disaster, a failure.
Well, I think it's a masterpiece. So I'd say that top one. I think it's a masterpiece.
I'm gonna second that.
Definitely my favorite. Definitely my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie of the ones
Yeah.
I've seen.
Honestly, like it's up there. Like, I mean, Hellboy is. I'm not even gonna equate the Hellboy movies with his other like his personal works because those are on another level. I'm a fan of Hellboy anyway. I enjoy them for comic book movies, but out of his personal works, I was really, really loving Pans, but this is right up there. I mean, this is probably my favorite now of his. This was a beautiful movie. It was excellent. I mean, it didn't have to be a creature feature. Like I love his creatures and everything, but
The people were the monsters.
yeah, the people were the monsters this time. This was just such a great movie. So yeah, it's a masterpiece.
What do you say, Lindsay?
I was agreeing. I'm sorry. I was just nodding, and
Oh,
I know
okay.
nobody can see me do
Oh.
that. Definitely, probably my favorite so far in the Guillermo del Toro universe.
And I really, it's hard because I love Pan's Labyrinth. I think it's a beautiful movie, but man, this one, and it's so odd because it isn't a creature feature movie. You know,
Yeah.
it's totally different. But
Well, I'm not going to quite say it's his best movie, but it's definitely fantastical. I think this is a masterclass on how to make a noir, and I think this is Guillermo del Toro's version of a noir. I think this is something like he's doing what a lot of directors want to do. Oh, I've never made this type of movie before. Let me see what I can do. And now being an Academy Award winning director, he's now considered like a respected auteur, not just in the genre and film community, but by the people who are awards people who are a little bit more snobbery on what type of movies they like. Like now he's like this director. They're like, well, I got to see what he does next. So he's like, let me see what I can do in this playground. Like you already know I could do a monster movie or a fairy tale. Let me see what I can do in this genre. And he does it perfectly, in my opinion.
mm-hmm.
So, Justin, what do you think about Pinocchio? He's doing his own Pinocchio. It's coming out in December.
I'm a fan. I love Pinocchio. I love all the stories. I love the Roberto Benigni one that came out a couple years ago. The CGI and animation is really scary to me because they make it look so realistic. But no, I'm really excited to see what happens because the Roberto Benigni one didn't necessarily follow the story. It was mostly about the boy, the wooden boy and Papa. So I'm interested to see what he does. Taking a classic tale and making it his own, I think is something I want to see. So, I wouldn't say that, after watching Nightmare Alley, I didn't go run and see all the other Guillermo Del Toro movies I haven't seen. So this movie didn't make me want to be like, oh, I'll watch anything he does and everything he does. But I'm really appreciative of what he did for this film. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Pinocchio and you're like, hey, what do you feel about his next movie? I'd be like, yeah, I'll probably see it. But I'm excited because it's Pinocchio and I like the story.
I think he's a perfect director for the material, and I think he's going to do something interesting, and it'll definitely be more on the nightmarish side of things from the source material than, like, say, the Disney movie or the upcoming Disney remake that's almost all CGI, where I think there's a little bit of stop motion and practical effects in Del Toro's version.
Yeah, and Ron Perlman joins him again in that movie.
Mm-hmm. All right. I don't know if you guys, Chris and Lindsay, if you're ready to do this. If not, I'll just do mine. Justin, since you haven't seen them all, you don't have to rank them if you don't want to.
Oh
But
man, I'm so sorry. That's what we forgot to do, Cuddy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But if you want to rank the ones you've seen, you can. So I'm going to do my Guillermo del Toro rankings. And if you guys want to do them too, you can. So I'll go from bottom to top. I don't think any of these movies are bad. These are just what I feel like are my personal favorites. So I'm putting Mimic at number 11. Then I'm going to do Pacific Rim. Then I'm going to do Blade 2. Then I'm going to do the first Hellboy. And the only reason I put those two there is even though they're very much Del Toro's vision, I feel like those are more studio interference than some of his other films. So I don't feel like his vision is fully there yet in those two, even though they're very fun movies and he elevates them. Then I'm going to do Crimson Peak, Kronos, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, which I think is a superior film to the original, Devil's Backbone, Nightmare Alley, The Shape of Water, and Pan's Labyrinth.
Since we are not ready,
Nice.
we will sit down and post ours on the website this evening.
That's fine.
We started to do it, but we did not finish. So we will.
Totally fine.
Yeah, I haven't seen Kronos, The Devil's Backbone, or Pan's Labby, so I'm sure this one would be fun. But I'll tell you, Nightmare Alley is my number one. Pacific Rim's pretty good. I don't hate me, but I don't really care for any of the Hellboys. So I'm sorry.
No, hey, no.
So
it's okay.
I guess my second would be Crimson Peak. Oh no, Blade 2 for sure. Blade 2 is number 2. And then Crimson Peak. If we were to throw in movies that he wrote, then I would put in Desolation of Smaug in there. Because I love Desolation of Smaug. But I will see Pan's Labyrinth. I know I need to see it, so I will see that one.
Yeah, if you see any of the ones you haven't seen, I would say yes, watch Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes. Which is not to be confused with Labyrinth.
No, even though that's a good movie too. I like that movie.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one. I just need to see the Pan's part. All right, cool. Well, that was awesome. I wish I want to hear what would be your guys' top though. Do you guys know what your top would be, Chris and Lindsay?
Top movies.
Oh, for
your favorite Del Toro.
Oh man, yeah, it would. My top would be definitely Nightmare Alley, and then Pan's Labyrinth. Then it would have to be. I'll go ahead and put Shape of Water at number 3. It was decent. It was good.
Yeah. Academy Award winner.
Number 4 would have to be Devil's Backbone, and I'll stop right there because I'll stop right there. Although I do have, again, it's because I am such a fanboy of the comics. I do have soft spots for Hellboy, but it's hard. You cannot equate those with, because they're popcorn movies. You know, they're comic book movies, so it's hard to equate them with his other work because of the
I
genre.
think Hellboy 2 though is a phenomenally made movie.
It's a beautiful movie. It is, and it does feel like one of his creature movies, you know. But it's still very much comic book, you know. But you're right. I mean, Hellboy 2, like as far as design and special effects and puppetry and up there, that movie is up there with some of his best stuff, like for sure, because the visuals are gorgeous.
What about the David Harbour Hellboy?
I haven't seen it.
You know what? It could have been a lot better than it was, and I will contribute a lot of that to behind the scenes fighting with the studio and the director and people not getting along, and just lots of problems behind the scenes of that movie. I love Ian McShane, but I did not like him as Professor Broom at all. I liked David Harbour as Hellboy, but I don't like
That's the guy I
don't
was
like
talking
the
about
way
earlier,
he
the Deadwood guy.
portrayed it. Like I don't know if it was his
No,
lines
no.
or I don't
No,
know. But
I completely agree. I did not think he did a good job, Harbour.
Visually, he was okay. Like I liked him visually, but it was the way he portrayed it. I didn't like it at all. I like David Harbour. I think David Harbour is a pretty good actor. You know, he's done some stuff. I like him. I mean, hell, who doesn't like him in Stranger Things? But he's done other stuff besides that I've enjoyed him in. But he just, I don't know. It was the way he delivered those lines. Like he couldn't sell me on Hellboy. There was stuff, the storyline. I thought the storyline was cool. There's lots of stuff that was straight out of the comic book that I thought was cool. The Baba Yaga and her house, and a lot of the creatures and the trolls and the witch and everything. I thought that was great, but it was very very jumbly. Felt very jumbled. Felt very rushed. Yeah. That's all I'll say on that. Like, I guess it's all right. It's worth watching once, but it doesn't hold up.
Every movie is worth the one view.
Oh, definitely did. But it does not hold up.
I guess. There's some movies I've seen I wished I didn't watch.
I am very passive in enjoying movies, but there's one movie that at the end of it I was mad that I had wasted the time it took to watch it. But it was about that Ghost Hunters guy. That Zach guy. It was like his documentary about the truly haunted house in America. It was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Some Zach Baggins documentary that we watched, like Hell House or something, and
it wasn't even scary. It was just bad the whole time.
Yeah,
that one. That's the only one I'll say it's not worth the first watch. I'll save you the time.
Demon House, yeah.
Yeah.
I even went and watched the what was the movie about the video game that was haunted, and if you played it,
you became possessed.
Oh yeah.
I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It had Frankie Muniz in it, I think.
Oh, yeah, I barely remember that.
That was during my summer that I basically lived at the theater. Like I was up there watching a movie like every other evening.
Did that come out after The Ring? So was that like trying to
it was
capitalize off the Ring popularity? Like, well, instead of a videotape, it's a video game.
I think it came out around the same time as not Reservoir Dogs.
Is it called Stay Alive?
Yeah, Stay Alive. Thank you. Wow. Oh.
2006. By the way, the Zach Baggins doc is made for TV, so that doesn't count.
Well, they
yeah.
still regret watching it.
Yeah, that was one of those where I was like, oh, I can't believe I don't know what
I wanted
made.
somebody to be accountable for how angry watching that movie made me.
I was more angry at myself. What triggered my brain to sit through it? Like,
sit through the whole thing and
why do I
turn it off?
Yeah, like, why do I want to keep watching this? I don't know, but
That's on us, isn't it?
I'm gonna find out. I guess we were really bored.
Lindsay, can you pick at least one right now that you think will be your favorite Del Toro?
I think I have a preference for very, very early Del Toro. I like Kronos and Devil's Backbone are my top. And then I do very much enjoy Hellboy, so the Hellboy movies are next. And yeah, I think Nightmare Alley is right after Hellboy. But they're different kinds of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, definitely, yeah.
Which shows versatility for a director, that they can make different types of movies. They don't just make the same movie over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Justin,
both Guillermo and Spielberg did it this year, because Spielberg did a musical finally.
Yeah, is it crazy that we have 3 remakes up for Best Picture?
How do you all feel about Cinderella? Like, when there's some controversy about Cinderella,
is that like a total people just trying to like make a joke of it? Because surely these people don't think that was their favorite movie. It's atrocious.
I don't know.
What?
The Cinderella Amazon movie. It's like being voted as the fan favorite. Yeah.
It was one of the worst movies of last year.
Yeah. Literally. They basically are like, we'll just sing some pop songs. And they're not even like pop songs today. They're like from like the 70s and the 80s for the most part.
I'd rather sit to The Wiz.
Yeah. I just worked on something with Camila Cabello, but I can't talk about it because I signed an NDA. I'll tell you guys about it after we're done filming. All right, yeah, when we turn off the live. Yeah. Rough. That is rough. That Cinderella movie was rough. And I love musicals.
Stop putting Pierce Brosnan in musicals. He can't sing. I love him, but he cannot sing.
No, that is so true. And also just stop putting James Corden in movies, period.
Please, or on TV or anywhere. Wherever he was hiding before I saw him in Doctor Who, he needs to go back.
I just saw a video.
Isn't he like doing some commercial for some sort of diet thing?
No, Weight Watchers, yeah.
Weight Watchers. I just remember my wife was yelling, "Nobody likes you, James Corden."
Oh,
yeah.
She's not wrong.
There's a video
but it's not him, though. It's his fault. It's not any fault with his singing.
Agreed, totally, yeah.
He's butchered.
But yeah, I would say that all 3 remakes are better than the original. But I haven't seen the original Nightmare Alley. But yeah, Dune and West Side Story definitely better than the originals.
Yes. Yeah. No, there's no way the 1947 Nightmare Alley is better than 2021. No way. Come on.
Oh, I forgot to say this. Tyrone Power's daughter is somewhere in this movie, who was the star of the original. It's a very small cameo role. So that's really cool.
Yeah, let me take a look. Romina Power.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is, but she's in the movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to guess, but I guess Guillermo does have some acting credits. He likes to put himself in things. He was in Kronos as a man-walking dog.
Mm-hmm. He usually does voices or something.
Yeah, he did voices in Hellboy and for some reason in Quantum of Solace.
That's an odd one, but okay.
Yeah, it just says additional voices. But yeah, Book of Life, Extraordinary Tales, It's always
Well,
something in Philadelphia.
he was like a consultant for a while on DreamWorks Animation, so
Yeah. With Troll Hunters, right? He did that.
well,
Troll
he
Hunters.
executive produced that show, but like he was like consulting on Puss in Boots and some other movies they did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, he's got a lot of. He's almost like Spielberg too, in like that they attach themselves to way too many projects, and some of them never see the light of day, or someone else ends up making them. But Justin, thank you so much for coming on the show and wrapping up our Del Toro series with us.
Thanks for having me. I mean, yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years. You know, it's my favorite movie since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, as far as like, you know, really, really good movies that I love so much. I love Nightmare Alley, and I love seeing it again and still enjoying it. Like, it's 2.5 hours, so that's long for anything, and I think it fits beautifully in that 2.5 hours, and just it goes down so smooth. So I'm really glad that I got to, and this would have been better than if I came on to talk about any of his other movies. So I'm glad that I came on to talk about this instead of the other ones, because I love this movie. And I thank you guys for having me and thinking of me for it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything you want to plug before we let you go?
Yeah, man, Worth a View movies and all the things. That's where the every movie is at least worth the one view thing came from, except for the Zach Bagan movie, Bagan or Cinderella. But yeah, man, Worth a View movies and all the things. Yeah, just been doing stuff on TikTok, extra added stuff that's not on the other streaming services. Plus longer reviews with Cody here and like. Robbie, we talk longer than just a minute about movies over on YouTube. It's the extended versions, stuff like that. We just talked about Boiling Point. Rob and I did. We talked about Boiling Point, which is it's an hour and a half, one take movie with Stephen Graham in it about him being a chef in a really popular fancy restaurant. But it was all one take. 2 days.
Wow.
4 takes. They used the third one, and that's all it took to film. So pretty good. One of the actors does flub over some words, and it's kind of funny that they kept that. But it's pretty interesting. The movie itself was okay. I think the whole point of it is better than the movie itself. But Robbie really liked it, so you can check that out. I just posted it today out on YouTube. Worth the movies. So, but yeah. This has been great. Thanks for having me. You guys are always, you know what you guys, you love movies and you know what you know what you're saying. So I love that.
Absolutely. And thanks for coming on. We'll see you next month for the Coen brothers. And we'll be back with Del Toro in the winter when Pinocchio drops on Netflix. So watch out for that. Until then, have a safe weekend. If you're somewhere where it's cold, stay warm. If you're not, enjoy not being cold.
Yeah.
Oh, and just be nice to everyone. Don't be racist, sexist, homophobic, and don't be transphobic either. Just be nice to everyone and let them live their lives.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings fandom.
Amen.
Goodbye.